What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. So the introduction of Camille has definitely made a lot of players pretty nervous because it's kind of evidence that once again, Riot are messing around with abilities that are essentially, at least on paper, the definition of unhealthy mechanics. This is of course referring to Camille's ultimate and its lack of counterplay. Essentially there's nothing you can do if you get ulted by her unless your champion somehow is able to knock her out of the radius. Fortunately though, Riot have definitely given it a lot more thought, and so today we wanted to break down their thought process when designing unhealthy or broken mechanics and why it's actually pretty important when it comes to champion development. And just before we start, I want to give a huge shout out to ProGuides.com for helping me out with the editing on this video. They're actually releasing a new app that's going to be free to use and it's going to be very helpful, so definitely check out their new app, as well as you can check out their site with a free trial with the link in the description. And if you guys enjoyed the video, definitely hit that like button and let's begin. Now as far as concerned players go, I gotta say it's probably the AD carry mains who are maybe a little bit concerned at the introduction of Camille's ultimate, simply because it can lack counterplay in a lot of scenarios that players are going to find themselves in. For those of you not familiar with the ability yet for some reason, it's called Hextech Ultimatum, and it works like a gap closer towards a targeted enemy champion. Once Camille reaches them, it imprisons them inside a zone and knocks away their allies, and while the ultimate is still active, the enemy that was targeted by the ultimate can't leave the area by any means whatsoever. They're just stuck at it until it expires, or until Camille leaves the zone early. But fun fact, if you watched our video, you would know that you can actually leave the ultimate using Tahm Kench. On top of that though, Camille gains bonus magic damage while inside of it, so it essentially puts you and Camille into a fight to the death inside of the zone. So if you're not fed or maybe playing a duelist champion, you could have a pretty hard time and find it quite frustrating to deal with, since oftentimes it might just be a guaranteed kill for Camille on the target. So from a design perspective, the ability seems pretty nuts, and it's a little bit confusing to a lot of players who have seen that Riot are mostly reworking champions these days in order to make them less unhealthy in general. It seems kind of strange that while on one hand they're introducing loads of counterplay and healthy mechanics through reworks, but at the same time introducing new broken mechanics like this and being totally fine with it. And it doesn't exactly stop there either actually. It's also looking like similar unhealthy mechanics are going to be introduced on future champions later as well. And the community was getting a little bit worked up over this, which prompted a response from Riot Jag, who stepped in to share a little bit of Riot's perspective and design philosophy to justify why they are okay with developing things that might end up causing frustration for players in the game. So the quote that Riot Jag shared was actually another quote from Riot August, and the argument he makes is that every champion needs to have something that will feel frustrating for opponents, or it's not going to be a champion worth playing. He continued and essentially said that a champion is only going to be fun to play if it can do something powerful that the entire rest of the game can take notice of. When you break down the quote and you think about the champions in the game, the ones that really stand out in your mind are the champions players enjoy playing the most overall, and they all have situations where they're insanely powerful and they get to do something that is just pretty broken. They don't have to be overpowered all the time or have every ability driving your enemies insane, but they should have at least, that one specific thing, that one specific mechanic, that one combo that they can use that is both satisfying to pull off and really scary for potential opponents. The real important thing here is to make sure that whatever mechanics Riot introduces, they make sure that they're unique and they line up well with the champion's identity, because that one annoying thing that they will do often becomes associated with that champion, and that's an important part of making a champion compelling and especially iconic. It wouldn't do much good if there was only one type of annoying mechanic in the game, and a bunch of champions just had to essentially share the same ability, since then it wouldn't be much reason to play one champion over the other. You just pick whichever champion happened to be the most strongest overall at the time. The same goes for champions that don't have their own powerful mechanics. Without them, they're left as just a pretty boring, uninteresting mess of a character that has too much counterplay to ever be useful, and especially is going to get outclassed by all of its competitors. The broken mechanic you give to a champion is often what gives people a reason to play them in the first place. It's something that makes them competitive, and it really brings the champion to life as much as the rest of the champion's design, really. It might be a little bit frustrating to deal with those mechanics, but unfortunately for people on the receiving end, those payoff moments are what makes the champion's gameplay worthwhile. So as long as it's not happening too frequently, Riot will continue to design unhealthy mechanics as long as they make sense for the champion. The question a lot of people will maybe be asking at this point is like, what do you draw the line on what makes a mechanic too broken to actually remain in the game? Because Riot is still reworking quite a lot of mechanics on the premise that they're too broken. And that can be a little bit weird to answer, since Riot does rework abilities all the time. If they're constantly nerfing and revamping abilities because they're maybe too broken or too unhealthy, it does definitely make you wonder why it's okay for broken mechanics to exist. The main balancing factor in here is the question of fun to play versus frustrating to play against, right? If a champion is constantly annoying players while using their regular abilities, let's say maybe a LeBlanc before her rework just jumping in, destroying the enemy squishies and repeating it over and over again 10 seconds later, then as a result the fun to play factor versus the frustrating to play against is heavily against the existence of that gameplay because it being frustrating outweighs how fun it is to play. Compare that to something maybe like Warwick's ultimate, where he can jump on someone with a point and click that stops them from doing anything, also deals a ton of damage. Definitely a very frustrating ability to play against, but at least there's things you can do. You could stay outside of his range, he can only do it on a pretty long cooldown anyway, and there's some things that you could do. You could potentially cleanse the ability, or have one of your teammates crowd control Warwick, or some kind of thing, that potentially gives you an option. But at the same time, Warwick's ultimate is a really iconic ability, and it's not actually that frustrating to play against because it's quite limited. So although it's a pretty broken ability if you think about it, it's allowed to exist because it's more fun than it is frustrating to play against. It's also important for Riot to make sure that there is at least some inconsistency or variance to the ability, something that you can maybe use to outplay it or counterplay the mechanic. It might be way easier to use the broken mechanic than it is to properly counter against it, but giving players at least some control over what's happening is often what stops an ability from becoming 100% broken in just every scenario that it's used. So going back to our previous example of Warwick's ultimate Infinite Duress, you can avoid it by just staying outside of the required range for Warwick to use it, and he's also just as vulnerable as you are when he jumps in, so maybe your team can help kill him before he kills you, or your team can stop him with some form of crowd control or something like that. It's definitely still weighted in Warwick's favor, since he's the one that gets to use this broken ass mechanic, right? But then there's still a decent amount of things that you can do to fight it. And having faults like that don't actually take anything away from the overpowered nature of the ability for the person playing Warwick. It's still awesome to just devour someone on the spot, so it still stays relatively balanced even though the ability itself, on paper, is potentially insane. A lot of the time, those different faults with an ability can actually increase the fun factor of using the abilities actually. They potentially can make them more fun to play with, because as a result, they become even more rewarding when you pull them off. Take skill shot abilities as a good example of this, like Jinx's ultimate. If Jinx's ultimate was a targeted ability instead of a skill shot, it wouldn't be nearly as fun to use or just destroy a team with it or snipe down that target, because you're just never going to miss it unless it gets absorbed by like a wind wall or something. The fact that Jinx's ultimate is a skill shot actually makes it even more satisfying to use, even more fun to play with than it otherwise would be. So even though it can definitely be somewhat frustrating to die randomly halfway across the map to a Jinx rocket, even the person on the receiving end is going to be like, damn, that was awesome, if only for like a split second, right? A global execute with a huge hitbox is a pretty powerful ability, but it's so awesome when it happens in the right way, and it's definitely worth keeping in the game because it gives people such an awesome reason to play Jinx, and it sparks some really positive reactions when you finally pull it off. Players get to spend time learning how to make the most of their champion's particular broken mechanic as well, and as a result it turns into an extremely compelling game experience, where you're picking champions while also being excited that you get the chance to use their abilities. And as a result, you're left with what ends up being a broken mechanic that is not only allowed to exist, but also functions quite well in the practical sense of the game. Either way though, that's just about everything we could come up for on why Riot keeps broken mechanics around on both old, future champions, and why they're introducing them. And definitely remember that even though it is frustrating to die to things that seem overpowered when they hit you, it's the same for everyone else when you use your own broken mechanic on the enemy team too. Riot have definitely done a pretty good job so far of using these mechanics sparingly, at least in the right ways too, and most champions that are just outrageously annoying to play against, pretty much 100% of the time are just going to keep getting reworks until the balance between fun to play and frustrating to play against is finally in a good spot. Either way though, definitely let us know in the comments section below what maybe your favorite broken ass ability in the game is to use, and maybe what your most hated abilities to play against are as well. Either way though, looks like that's gonna be it for me. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like, subscribe if you want. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.